From Africa on Channel 405, I'm Ziniko Mhlaba at Bedford View in Johannesburg.
Well, Dr. Webster Zambara from the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation. He was one of the people observing the elections last week. He's back in South Africa now. Dr. Zambara, good evening to you. Thank you very much indeed for your time. We've seen SADC, the observer mission, raising questions around the elections. They seem to be saying they were not free and fair. Do you agree with the SADC observer mission on what happened in Zimbabwe?
Good evening to your viewership, and thanks for having me. Indeed, I think we are getting into a very interesting time in Zim. For the first time, we can say the SADC Electoral Observer Mission has moved away from the past where they would hear no evil, see no evil, and speak no evil. And to that extent, you would find that both ZANU-PF and CCC had reacted in a bit of surprise. I would say to ZANU-PF it was an unpleasant surprise because they are not used to being told of these irregularities. And I would say also to some extent the CCC had a pleasant surprise such that their reaction to this was actually coming late. I think it doesn't do well for them. They should have actually reacted faster. I was on the ground, and there's no doubt that what we witnessed in Harare province, which is the biggest political province with almost 900,000 voters, had a 23% voter start rate, when rural provinces such as Masvingo had 100%. Another stronghold, Bulawayo, had a 75% starting rate. And what was interesting is that when ZEC announced at around 10 a.m., that they were facing problems of ballot papers. There were ballot papers of local council elections that were not available, yet they had not gone to be any contestation. So in a big way, the SADC Electoral Observer Mission pointed out the irregularities that everyone could see. Now, in its reaction, which I think was not well thought out, ZANU-PF, I think, it was surprised, and it is now hiding on the position of sovereignty that the Electoral Observer Mission did not restrict itself to its mandate. However, if you actually go to the guidelines, the SADC guidelines, the Electoral Observer Mission didn't do anything wrong. Now comes the question, where do we go from here? Because this is actually an uncharted waters that we are entering. Will the report be taken to the SADC Troika, and who is in the Troika? It is being chaired by Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema, who again, we saw ZANU-PF spokesperson Chris Muchangwa bashing him for being a puppet of the West. And then the Troika works as 3 countries. The other 2 countries are Namibia and Tanzania. And here is the interesting part. When an election ends, we expect a flurry of congratulatory messages to come in. So far, since 11 p.m. on Saturday night, up to now, only 3 presidents have congratulated President Mnangagwa. And the 3 are, the first was President Heinob of Namibia, and second was President Slew of Tanzania. So these already are part of the Troika. So these will sit in the Troika. And the third one is President Lukashenko of Belarus. We are a bit, I think I would say everyone is actually jaw-dropping that almost 48 hours, we only have 3, even among fraternal parties, that have congratulated President Mnangagwa. And this speaks volume of how this election is not only being disputed locally, but it's also not attracting the energy that it would have regionally. And it is actually a cause of concern.
So, Dr. Zambara, I mean, 2 key countries that haven't offered their congratulations, the South African government, and then, if you're correct, the Chinese government, which is a strong ally of ZANU-PF as well. I mean, that's fascinating. You'd think China would be very quick to support ZANU-PF because they have in the past.
That is why I am saying it's a bit jaw-dropping as to, yes, yesterday was a Sunday. We would say perhaps it was not a business day. But we are towards the end of business Monday in this part of the world, and we are not seeing these fraternal parties that have always been at the forefront of congratulating their partner party, ZANU-PF. So we wait to see whether this points to a challenge in which not only SADC, but the AU COMESA, the US, EU, UK observer missions have all pointed out on these irregularities. However, they also all tell whoever is aggrieved to use the legal channels, and these legal channels would be the Zimbabwean courts. And mind you, this is a road we walked before. 2018 elections, they ended up in a court after being disputed. The court ruled, and Chamisa, when he was still leading MDCA, then still continued to say he did not believe with the court ruling and did not believe that
Dr.
President
Zambara
Mnangagwa was legitimate. Yes. So we hope to see if that is the route that he is taking, and going back to the courts, which some pundits would say they are captured. Others will say the courts have ruled in favor of CCC before. So it becomes again a court battle. And this election, by the way, right from the beginning, the delimitation exercise, selection, I mean, the parliamentarians as well as presidential candidates ended up having to go to court in some cases. So it's again going back to the courts. And I have dubbed this election as a court election, in which the court is the arbiter from the start right to the finish.
Dr. Webster Zambara, thank you, at the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation.
2 mothers have been arrested after 5 children were burnt to